Hi, and welcome to a video essay on the French Connection. I'm Nicole, and today we'll be discussing and discovering different techniques used in this particular scene called the subway scene of the French Connection. As you know, no doubt, this film was released in 1971. This film follows two New York Police Department narcotic detectives by the name of Jimmy Doyle and Buddy Rousseau as they try and take down an infamous French heroin smuggler by the name of Alain Charnier. This film is directed by William Friedkin, and Owen Roizman serves as the director of photography for this film. This scene uses composition, angle of view, and depth of field to mirror Doyle's obsession with catching the outlaw and also the power dynamic that exists between the two, Doyle and Charnier. Let's dive right in. In the beginning of the scene, Doyle and Rousseau are in two separate locations discussing where Charnier may be. Doyle is underground on a subway platform waiting for Charnier, while Rousseau was left in the wake of Charnier's magical misdirection. This shot is an extreme close-up of Doyle where a frame-within-frame technique is used along with a shallow depth of field, possibly created with the use of a telephoto lens. The frame-within-frame composition harnesses the viewer's focus on Doyle's face and the dialogue between him and his partner, Rousseau. The framing technique reflects Doyle's mindset, which is hyper-focused and centered on catching Alain Charnier. The viewer's attention is centered on Doyle's profile, just as Doyle's thoughts are centered and consumed by the current investigation. The extreme close-up creates a sense of intimacy in that the viewer feels as though they might be inside the phone booth with Doyle. It creates a feeling of being so close to him that you can smell and touch him. This angle of view encourages the audience to own a subjective perspective to the events taking place versus feeling like a voyeur. The narrow depth of field blurs the already barely visible background to prevent the viewer from being distracted from the character's profile, again solidifying the idea that the viewer's attention and focus should mirror Doyle's, which helps set up the rest of the scene and foster a feeling of high stakes for the audience. I would like to mention the next shot is centered on a medium close-up of Rousseau giving a more objective perspective to the viewer, as if for the secretary who handed the phone to him. Remember, Doyle is underground on the subway platform in the middle of the events, while his partner Rousseau is still above ground, again after being misled by Charnier. It's important to mention that the size of Doyle's head occupies much more of the frame relative to Rousseau's size in the shot. Editing these shots back to back suggests that Rousseau is not as invested or obsessed with capturing Charnier as Doyle is. In the next few scenes, we find that the cat and mouse are in much closer proximity than they had intended to be. I want to draw attention to this next shot's use of angle of view and camera movement. The over-the-shoulder angle of view used is yet another technique that gives the audience a sense of subjectivity in the scene. The camera angle helps the audience see what Doyle sees as if we were using his eyes. The dolly movement signals a gradual discovery of the person of interest, Charnier. Using a wide-angle lens and wide depth of field, Charnier and the setting are both in focus. Now, there are a few variables in this shot, like people passing through the frame and audible footsteps. And then Doyle's sudden change in dialogue, which is supposed to disguise yet hint to the audience the discovery of the drug smuggler. As the camera moves, our eyes remain trained on both Doyle and Charnier in spite of the variables mentioned. Why? Because the frame achieves and retains balance. Doyle remains on the left half of the frame, and Charnier on the right half. We also see that Doyle is again much larger relative to Charnier, which alludes to an unequal power dynamic. This power dynamic shifts at the end of the scene when the elusive drug lord escapes the detective's grasp, which we'll discuss in just a moment. Let's go back to composition. This shot follows just after Doyle first sees Charnier on the subway platform. Recall Doyle's size here in the frame is much larger than that of Charnier's size, which reflects the detective's perceived power over having found the criminal. However, here there is no size difference, which may be achieved in part by design of this shot using the low camera angle. This establishes an equal power dynamic, which lends to the idea that the cat, Doyle, and mouse, Charnier, have fallen on equal footing. There are many people in the frame, but our eyes remain attentive and steady on Doyle and Charnier, not only because we know to follow them, but because of where they fall in the frame. Using the rule of thirds, I'm going to draw lines here on this photo. Their position in the frame makes it appealing to the eye because there is balance. Remember when we were discussing the power dynamic shift? In some of the final shots of this scene, we see similar angle of views used in the beginning, but on the opposite character. Doyle appears smaller in size in the frame, achieved by using a medium shot or long shot, and Charnier takes up most of the frame with an extreme close-up, and as he raises an impish hand to wave goodbye to Doyle as he makes his getaway. This switch in composition further alludes to Doyle and Charnier's cat and mouse relationship. The design of these shots clearly communicates the theme of power and obsession. Doyle's relentless dedication to finding and capturing the ever-elusive French heroin smuggler is mirrored in this scene's cinematography. Thank you so much for watching this video essay on the French Connection. Bye-bye.